This part will open with a deep emotional hook inside a hospital setting, where the mother is faced with a heartbreaking request from her child that sets everything in motion. Asterisk, the pediatric wing smelled like lemon-scented disinfectant and sadness. Beyond the pale blue curtain in room 413, 6-year-old Lily Grant lay silent, a tangle of 4 lines, monitors, and courage. Her small hand curled around her mother's finger like it was her only tether to the world. "Mama," she whispered, voice papery and dry. Angela looked down from the edge of her stiff hospital chair. Her bones ached. Her heart did worse. She hadn't eaten in 12 hours, hadn't slept in 20. The only thing that seemed to matter now was that Lily could breathe, just breathe. "Yes, baby," she replied softly, brushing strands of auburn hair from her daughter's damp brow. Lily's lips barely moved. "When I was asleep, I had a dream." Angela smiled weakly. "What kind of dream?" "You were laughing," Lily said, her eyes staring at the ceiling like she could still see it. "And I had a daddy." Angela's smile froze. "In the dream," Lily continued, "he was tall, and he held my hand. He called me Pumpkin." Her lashes fluttered. "I liked how it felt." Angela felt something shatter quietly inside her. The kind of shatter that doesn't make a sound, but echoes through every corner of her soul. "I wish I had a daddy, Mama," Lily murmured. "Just once, even for one day, just so I know what it feels like." Angela couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't stop the wave of guilt crashing over her, drowning her in truths she couldn't change. Lily didn't know the full story. How her father, a man named Kyle, had walked out the moment Angela told him she was pregnant. No calls, no letters, no forwarding address, only a post-it note that read, "I'm not ready for this." Angela had worked 3 jobs since: waitressing, cleaning houses, walking dogs, anything to keep Lily fed, clothed and warm. But some gaps, like a father's arms, can't be filled by overtime. Lily turned her head slightly. "Mama." "Yes, sweetheart. Do you think you could borrow one, just for a day?" Angela blinked. "Borrow what, honey?" "A daddy." And just like that, her heart broke clean in 2. Asterisk, the man hadn't planned to stop at the hospital that day. Ethan Carter was on his way to finalize the biggest real estate deal of his life when his phone buzzed, with an unfamiliar number. A friend's father, an old mentor from years ago, had collapsed nearby. Ethan had diverted, asked his driver to wait, and rushed into the hospital to check on the man who once believed in him when no one else had. Now, an hour later, Ethan stood in the lobby, distracted by updates from his assistant, holding a coffee. He hadn't sipped, feeling oddly out of place. His navy suit was crisp, his shoes polished, but inside, something weighed heavier than the leather briefcase he carried. He didn't see her coming. Angela's steps were hesitant, unsure, like she was battling the storm inside her and still choosing to walk through it. She saw him, tall, composed, kind-looking, and her feet moved before her brain could stop them. The truth was, she didn't even know what she was doing until she was already standing in front of him. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dry and small. He turned, startled, polite. Yes, there was a pause, a long one. Angela blinked, and tears she didn't know she'd been holding back slid quietly down her cheek. Her voice broke. "This is going to sound insane, and I'm sorry in advance. I don't know what else to do." Ethan tilted his head, gently. "Are you okay?" "My daughter," she began, then faltered. "She's upstairs. She's 6, and she's 6. She's not doing great." Ethan's posture shifted, the word daughter landing like a soft bell. "She asked me for something I can't give her." Angela continued, brushing her face with the back of her hand. "She asked if she could have a dad, just for a day. She's never had one, not even for a second." The air stilled. "I know you don't know me," she said, rushing to fill the silence. "And I know this is absurd, but when she saw a boy next door in the pediatric unit getting lifted into his dad's arms, she said it looked like magic. And then she asked me if I could borrow a dad for her too, just so she knows what it feels like before." Her voice cracked again. "Before what?" Ethan asked softly. Angela hesitated, her lips trembling. "Before her heart gives up." That's when something flickered in Ethan's eyes, a memory he hadn't touched in years. A little boy with a bruised knee waiting in a gymnasium doorway, watching everyone else get picked up by dads in pickup trucks, while he sat alone, pretending not to care. He cleared his throat. "You want me to pretend? To be her father? I know it's too much. I know it's unfair to ask, but I've spent every ounce of myself trying to protect her from the holes life has left, and this is the one thing I can't pretend into existence for her." Ethan looked at Angela, tired eyes, calloused hands, a strength wrapped in grief, and something unexplainable tugged at him. "What's her name?" he asked Lily. She whispered that. There was a beat. "Okay," he said quietly. Angela blinked. "Okay, I'll do it. Just for today." She stared at him, stunned. "Are you serious?" Ethan nodded. "But I don't know how to be someone's dad." Angela smiled through tears. "You don't have to know how. Just be kind. Just be there." An hour later, Ethan stood outside room 413, staring through the glass at a little girl with hollow cheeks and bright eyes. She was drawing something, a castle maybe, on a paper tray with a dull crayon. The fourth cord looped like thread across her bed. Angela stepped inside first. "Lily," she said gently, "someone's here to see you." Lily looked up, confused, at first, then she saw Ethan, and her breath caught. He smiled, not a practiced one, not the kind he used in boardrooms, a soft, uncertain smile that belonged to someone standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. "Hi," he said, stepping in. Lily's eyes widened. "Are you?" He walked to her bed, slowly. "I heard there's a brave little girl here who needed a stand-in dad for a day." She blinked at him, stunned. "You came?" He nodded. "I had to. You see, I don't have a daughter either. Maybe you and I could help each other out." Lily's mouth curved slowly into something that almost looked like joy. A dimple she hadn't used in weeks peeked through her cheek. "Can I call you Daddy, just for today?" she asked. Ethan sat down beside her bed and reached for her hand. "I'd be honored." Angela turned away for a moment, blinking furiously at the tears that now came too fast to stop. They spent that afternoon coloring, watching cartoons, and talking about everything and nothing. Ethan told her stories real and made up about wild horses and paper aeroplanes and secret underwater kingdoms. Lily laughed, a real laugh. Nurses paused in the hallway when they heard it, exchanging surprised glances. Angela watched them, from the chair beside the window, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. It was only supposed to be one visit, 1 hour, one moment. But when Ethan finally stood to leave, Lily's voice stopped him. "Will you come back tomorrow, Daddy?" He hesitated, looked at Angela, then back at Lily. And with a softness that caught even him off guard, he nodded. "I'll be back, Pumpkin." Outside the hospital, Ethan stood under the orange streetlight, hands in his coat pockets, staring at the building. He hadn't told Angela that he once walked away from someone who needed him to, that he'd built empires from nothing to forget where he came from, that behind every glass wall in his penthouse office was a past he refused to look at. But tonight, a little girl with a brave heart had called him Daddy, and for the first time in years, he felt something shift. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was clear. He was coming back, not for duty, not for guilt, but because something inside him whispered this was only the beginning. Ethan arrived the next morning with a bag of markers, 2 storybooks, and a pack of chocolate chip cookies he wasn't even sure Lily could eat. He'd spent half the night walking in circles around his apartment, his mind replaying every moment from that hospital room like a film reel he didn't want to turn off. Her voice, her tiny hand in his, the way she'd called him Daddy, with no hesitation, like it was the most natural word in the world. He didn't tell anyone where he was going that day, not his assistant, not the clients waiting on the contract, not the board members flying in from New York. For once, the deal could wait. He stepped into room 413 and was met with a gasp of joy. "You came back." Lily beamed, her eyes brighter. Today, her hair brushed, a pink clip holding her bangs back. Ethan smiled. "Of course I did. Didn't I promise you, Pumpkin?" She reached for the bag. "What did you bring?" Angela stood beside the window, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup. She didn't say much, just gave him a soft nod, but her eyes held something new. Trust, maybe, or gratitude, too big for words. Ethan sat at Lily's bedside and pulled out the items one by one. Cookies for champions, a castle coloring book, and 2 adventure stories. Lily grinned. "You really are the best borrowed daddy." He laughed. "Maybe the best ever. You might have to write me a certificate." "I will," she said seriously, with glitter. That morning, time bent around them. The machines still beeped. The nurses still shuffled past, but the 3 of them existed in a bubble. a world where illness took a back seat to crayons and giggles. But around noon, Lily dozed off mid-sentence, her tiny frame curling under the blanket like a flower folding for the night. Ethan watched her for a long time, the rise and fall of her chest a silent rhythm he didn't want to stop watching. Angela stepped out onto the small bench in the hallway, and Ethan followed. "She looks better," he said. "She does." Angela nodded. "The doctors said her oxygen levels are more stable. They didn't say much more, but I know what I see." She hasn't smiled like that in weeks. There was silence between them for a moment. Not awkward, just full. Ethan leaned against the wall. "I don't usually do this." Angela looked over at him. "Be kind." He smiled faintly. "Let people in." She nodded like she understood more than he'd said. "You don't have to. Tell me why." Ethan stared at the floor for a second. Then, as if the words had been waiting to be spoken for years, he said, "My little sister died when I was 15. I never visited her in the hospital once." Angela turned toward him, surprised. He went on, "She had leukemia. We were only 2 years apart, but I couldn't face it. I made excuses. I told myself she was fine, that they were overreacting. But truth was, I was scared." He took a breath, the memory rough in his chest. "The night she died, she asked for me. My mom told me after. Said she held on for hours, waiting. I never made it." Angela didn't speak, didn't interrupt. "I've spent my whole life trying to make up for that moment," Ethan said. "Building things, earning titles, proving something to a ghost. But last night, Lily asked me to stay, and I didn't feel scared. I felt ... needed, in a way I hadn't in a long time." Angela's eyes softened. "Maybe you were always meant to be a part of something like this, even if it didn't start the way you expected." He glanced at her. "I don't know what this is, Angela. I just know I want to keep showing up." "You don't have to," she said, though her voice was quieter this time. "I know," he replied. "That's why I will." The next few days became a rhythm. Ethan showed up with stories and silly games, puzzles and new words he taught Lily like serendipity and fortitude. She clung to him like she'd known him all her life. He listened when she talked about dreams and fears and what stars might taste like. She asked questions no adult could answer, like whether butterflies could pray, or if angels wore pajamas. He didn't have all the answers, but he was there. By the end of the week, Ethan had memorized every creak in the hospital floor and every flavor of yogurt Lily liked. He had her laugh committed to memory, and one evening, when she fell asleep holding his thumb, Angela turned to him with tears in her eyes. "She keeps asking when you're going to take her to the zoo," she said with a small smile. Ethan laughed. "I've never even been to the zoo." "Well, you better learn," Angela teased. "You're her hero now." The weight of that word hit him. Hero, not businessman, not investor, not founder, just a man who showed up. He left the hospital, late that night, walking slower than usual, heart heavier but in a different way, a good way. But as he reached the parking garage, his phone buzzed. The caller ID made his stomach sink. Mark Jensen, senior partner, Arcadia Developments. He hesitated, then picked up. "Ethan," Mark said, "where the hell have you been? We're in the final stage. The press is waiting." "If we lose this deal, I'm walking away," Ethan said quietly. There was a pause. "What?" "I'm stepping back. Someone else can close it. It's not where I need to be right now." "You're turning down 50 million in profit." "I'm turning towards something more important." And before Mark could argue, Ethan ended the call. That night, as he stared at the ceiling in his silent apartment, he realized something had changed, not just in Lily, but in him. Something old was healing, something broken was mending, and he knew deep down he couldn't go back to the life he'd lived before. He was no longer just a man with a title. He was becoming someone else, someone a little girl believed in, someone worth becoming, and maybe, just maybe, someone who didn't need to pretend anymore. The news came on a Tuesday morning, the kind of day that began with promise, golden lights spilling into hospital windows, Lily's laughter echoing faintly down the corridor, and Ethan arriving in jeans and a hoodie, coffee in one hand, a balloon that said "Your magic" in the other. Angela met him at the door to room 413, with a look he hadn't seen before. Not quite sorrow, not quite relief, something between. "She wants to show you something," Angela said softly, stepping aside. Inside, Lily sat upright in her bed, a paper crown taped together with medical tape tilted on her head. Her cheeks held more color, and her forehead had been moved from her hand to a port near her collarbone. "Sir Ethan of the Royal Hospital," she declared, lifting a glittery wand made from a tongue depressor and tinsel. "You've been promoted to Knight of the Couch Fortress." Ethan bowed dramatically. "I accept this great honor, Princess Lily of Bed 413. They spent the next hour building a castle out of pillows and snack boxes, and Ethan read her the first chapter of The Secret Garden while she listened, curled against his arm. Then mid-sentence, a knock came. A nurse. "Angela, Dr. Levin needs to speak with you." Angela's face didn't change. She just nodded, kissed Lily's head, and followed the nurse into the hallway. Ethan watched the door shut behind her, then looked back down at Lily, who was now watching him instead of listening to the book. "Is it bad news?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "Why would you think that?" She shrugged. "Mama always makes a brave face when she's about to cry later." He looked at her, not just her words, but her knowing. The kind of knowing kids shouldn't have. The kind you only earn when you've watched life play unfair too many times. "Maybe it's good news," he said. "Maybe the doctor wants to say you're getting better." Lily nodded. "Maybe." Then she added, "I had a dream last night. We were at a zoo. You were wearing a funny hat and feeding giraffes with me." Mama was laughing. It felt so real I could still smell the popcorn. Ethan smiled. "That sounds like a good dream." She looked at him seriously. "I want to have it again tonight, but for real." Meanwhile, in Dr. Levin's office, Angela sat across from a desk cluttered with folders and charts. The doctor closed Lily's file slowly. "She's stabilizing," he said. "More than we expected. Her heart function is still weak, but the numbers are improving. It's small, but it's something." Angela gripped the arms of the chair. "You're saying there's a chance?" He leaned forward. "I'm saying she's responding to something, more than medication. Emotional engagement can do more than we understand. That man who visits may be doing more for her than we ever could." Angela felt her throat tighten. She nodded, eyes welling. "Don't let this moment pass," Dr. Levin said gently. "Whatever you're building, hold on to it." Back in the room, Ethan and Lily were mid-laugh when Angela returned. Ethan stood as she entered. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded and gave him a small smile. "Yeah, actually, maybe better than okay." That afternoon, as Lily slept, Angela and Ethan sat together in the lounge, both watching the late sunlight stretch across the tile floor. "You know," Angela said, breaking the silence, "you could have walked away 100 times, but you didn't." Ethan looked at her, then down at his hands. "I don't think I could walk away now, even if I tried." "Why?" He turned his head, and his voice came softer. "Because when she calls me Daddy, I don't feel like I'm pretending anymore." Angela's eyes shimmered. "She's not just healing because of the medicine, Ethan. She's healing because someone who didn't have to love her chose to." Ethan stood and walked to the window, watching the city breathe below. "When I first saw you in the lobby, I thought you were someone breaking." Angela tilted her head. "And now I know you're someone who never gave up, even when life didn't give you anything back." He turned to her. "That kind of strength, it's rare." She laughed gently, brushing her hair back. "Flattery doesn't suit a couch knight, you know." But his eyes didn't leave hers. "I'm not trying to flatter you, Angela." She looked down, heartbeat quickening, unsure what to do with the quiet intensity in his voice. They didn't kiss. There were no sweeping declarations, just a shift, one that hung between them, fragile and real. That evening, Ethan left the hospital later than usual. As he walked to his car, his phone buzzed again. A text from his assistant. "New York investors want answers. You're days behind. They're threatening to pull." He stared at the message for a long time, then slowly typed back, "Let them. Some things matter more than money." He didn't send it. Not yet, but he knew he would. Later that night, in his apartment overlooking the city skyline, he sat on his balcony with a notebook in his lap. He flipped it open to a blank page, and at the top, in neat, steady letters, he wrote, "Things I want to build with her. A zoo visit, a home full of stories, a place where she never has to ask for a dad again, a life that doesn't end when the foreline is removed, a future where love isn't borrowed, it's permanent." He closed the notebook, leaned back, and looked up at the stars. Somewhere in the quiet, he whispered, "Please, let me stay long enough to become what they both deserve." And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a man chasing redemption. He felt like a man who was finally finding it. Ethan never planned to become a part of their world, not in the way he now found himself. It had started as a one-day kindness, a single step toward healing a stranger's heartbreak. But what was happening now didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt like a story rewriting itself in real time, one heartbeat, one smile, one moment at a time. He stood at the threshold of Lily's hospital room on a Saturday morning, watching the sunlight fall across her face. Her cheeks were rosier than they had been weeks ago. The nurses were whispering things like progress and remarkable turnaround, just loud enough to be overheard. Ethan clung to those words like oxygen. "Daddy's late," Lily said, teasingly, folding her arms as he walked in. "Princesses don't wait forever, you know." "Forgive me, Your Majesty," Ethan said, kneeling beside the bed with mock sincerity. "I had to tame a dragon in traffic and win a duel with a coffee machine." Angela, standing by the window, laughed for the first time that morning, a real laugh, not a tired one. That laugh reached Ethan's chest like a wave of warmth. "What's the plan today?" he asked. Lily lifted a stack of hand-drawn maps. "A treasure hunt." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "In a hospital?" "It's a magic hospital," she replied seriously. "The treasure is hidden somewhere between room 401 and the vending machines." And so, for the next 2 hours, they searched. Clues taped under chairs, tiny scrolls tucked behind magazines, nurses smirking as they played along. Other patients even joined in, cheering when Lily found the final clue under her own pillow. A tiny, handmade medal of bravery. Lily wore it like it had been forged in gold. After the hunt, while Lily napped again, her strength still limited despite her spirit, Ethan and Angela shared lunch on the bench outside her room. Angela looked at him over the edge of her sandwich. "You make her believe she can do anything." Ethan met her eyes. "She makes me believe that too." A beat passed. Then Angela reached into her bag and pulled out a folded envelope. "I wasn't going to show you this. I wrote it a few nights ago in case. Well, just in case." He hesitated. "A letter. For you." "For Lily. I wrote a few actually. But this one." She handed it to him. "Read it when you're ready." He took it, fingers curling around the worn edges. "Angela, you don't need to." "I know I don't," she said gently. "But you've become someone I trust, with her heart, and with mine." Ethan looked down at the envelope, then up at her. "You still think I might walk away?" Angela's voice broke just slightly. "I've learned not to expect people to stay." There it was, not bitterness, but weakness, like someone who'd tried hope too many times and had the bruises to prove it. He leaned forward. "Then maybe it's time to learn what it feels like when someone does." That night, something unexpected happened. Lily was transferred from ICU to the main pediatric recovery wing. The doctors called it cautiously optimistic. Angela called it a miracle. Ethan called it something he never thought he'd believe in again. Grace. The new room had real windows. Lily's bed was near one, and she could see the moon at night. She asked Ethan to teach her the constellations, and every evening they traced stars with their fingers in the air like they were drawing a map of dreams. But on the third night in the new room, Lily whispered something different. "Daddy." Ethan didn't correct her. "Not anymore." "Yes, sweetheart. When I get better, will we still do treasure hunts?" He smiled. "We'll do them in real forests, with real maps, and maybe a picnic. And will you still be my daddy?" He paused, voice catching, then softly, "If you'll still let me." Lily's eyes sparkled. "Always." In the hallway outside, Angela listened with a hand over her heart. She didn't mean to eavesdrop. She'd just gone to fill Lily's water cup, but the moment froze her in place. Those words, that warmth, the sound of a man who wasn't pretending anymore. Later, when she returned with the water, Ethan looked up at her from Lily's bedside, not uncertain, not questioning, just steady, present. Angela didn't speak. She sat beside them, one hand resting on her daughter's foot, the other brushing her hair. They stayed like that for a long time, no one needing to fill the silence. It was enough just to be together. The next morning brought something neither of them expected. A knock on the hospital room door. Two well-dressed men stood outside, one with a clipboard, the other with a camera bag. "Excuse us," the taller one said. "Is this a good time? We're from Bay City today. We heard about Lily's story." The nurses said. Angela looked stunned. "The newspaper." Ethan stepped forward cautiously. "Why?" "She's become a bit of a legend on the recovery floor," the journalist said with a smile. "A little girl who asked for a pretend dad, and somehow got her miracle." People want to hear it. Angela looked at Ethan, uncertain. He stepped back and looked at Lily. She was awake, listening, her face glowing with the kind of joy that only a child can feel when they realize their story matters. "Can we?" she whispered. "Tell them." Angela nodded slowly, and just like that, a story that began with desperation, a mother's impossible request, started to echo beyond the walls of that hospital room. They took photos, recorded interviews, but what struck everyone most was not the illness, not the medical details. It was the love, the kind that doesn't come from biology, or time, or plans, the kind that's chosen. In the final photo, Lily wore her bravery medal, and her paper crown, sitting between Angela and Ethan, their hands all laced together. The caption the journalist wrote would go viral within days. She asked for a dad. What she got was a family. But none of them knew that yet. They were too busy living it, too busy becoming something they never expected to be, a forever they didn't even know was possible. Until now. The hospital room was quieter now, not because something was missing, but because something had finally settled. Peace. It lingered in the corners, in the softened rhythm of monitors, in the way the nurses smiled when they passed by room 216. Word had spread, not just about Lily's recovery, which continued to surprise the medical staff daily, but about the story behind it. The story of a man who said yes to a stranger's impossible question and stayed. Ethan arrived that morning earlier than usual, no coffee in hand, no briefcase, just a man walking slowly down the corridor with a bouquet of sunflowers. He paused outside the door, hearing laughter inside, Angela's laughter, Lily's. He closed his eyes for a second, letting the sounds seep in like sunlight warming cold stone. That laughter meant something had shifted, something permanent. When he walked in, Lily threw her arms open. "Daddy." Angela, sitting on the edge of the bed, turned her hair in a loose braid, eyes softer than he'd ever seen. She stood. As he crossed the room, "I brought these," Ethan said, handing her the flowers. Angela touched them gently, then looked up at him. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." He hesitated. "I don't think I ever want to stop." Before she could answer, Lily clapped her hands. "Guess what? Dr. Levin said I can go home soon." Angela beamed. "He said maybe within a week." Ethan crouched beside the bed. "That's amazing." Lily nodded, then grew quiet. "But I don't want to leave you behind." Angela's breath caught, but she said nothing. Ethan smiled gently. "Sweetheart, I'm not going anywhere." "But we don't have a house big enough for all of us," Lily said, brows furrowed with serious 6-year-old logic. Angela opened her mouth, but Ethan spoke first. "Then maybe it's time we talk about what home really means." That night, after Lily had fallen asleep with a book in her lap and a stuffed penguin cradled in her arms, Ethan and Angela stood by the hospital window. The investors pulled out. Ethan said, almost casually. Angela blinked. "What? Why?" "Because I haven't been answering their emails. Haven't flown back to New York. Haven't done what a good CEO is supposed to do." Her heart stuttered. "You gave all that up." He turned to her. "I didn't give anything up. I made room for something better." Angela's voice dropped. "And what exactly is that?" "You heard this." He looked down at his hands. "I spent years building companies, buying silence, chasing numbers. But Lily, she taught me how to be still. And you taught me how to care." Angela looked away, overwhelmed. "You barely know us." "I know enough." He stepped closer. "I know what it felt like the first time Lily called me daddy, and it didn't feel like pretending. I know that every moment with her rewrote something broken inside me. And I know that when I look at you, Angela, I see a life I never knew I was allowed to want." Angela's eyes shimmered, but she stayed quiet. "I'm not asking for answers tonight," Ethan said softly. "Just a chance to be part of whatever comes next. Not because I have to, but because I choose to." There was a pause. Then Angela whispered, "What if I say yes? Then I'll never let you regret it." The week passed in a blur. Discharge, papers signed, nurses hugging goodbye, a farewell parade down the hallway, complete with balloons and paper crowns. Lily held Ethan's hand in one and Angela's in the other. As they walked out of the hospital and into the sunlit afternoon, Ethan's car was waiting. Not the sleek black sports model he once flaunted for business deals, but a modest SUV with a new child seat installed in the back. He opened the door, helped Lily in, and fastened the buckle as if he'd done it 1,000 times. Angela stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, watching him. "Are you sure?" she asked. He looked at her. Absolutely. She slid into the passenger seat, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was bracing for life to take something away. That night, in the apartment Ethan had once kept as nothing more than a place to sleep between meetings, Lily sat on the couch drawing stick figures of their new family. Angela unpacked a small overnight bag, and Ethan, barefoot in the kitchen, burned the grilled cheese sandwiches. "Okay," he said, fanning the smoke. "I can build tech empires but not feed a 6-year-old." Lily giggled. "We'll order pizza. You're better at treasure hunts." Anyway, Angela leaned on the counter, watching him. "You really are staying, huh?" He looked at her, his expression soft and unwavering. "I've never wanted anything more." The pizza arrived. The couch turned into a nest of blankets. The night ended with a movie Lily had seen 100 times, and still quoted line by line. She fell asleep halfway through, curled under Ethan's arm. Angela turned off the TV, then looked at him in the glow of the city lights outside their window. "This feels like a dream," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "Then let's never wake up." Weeks passed, then months. Lily grew stronger, not just physically, but emotionally. Her laughter became louder, her walks longer. She started school. She brought home drawings with captions like "My family, Mom, me, and Dad." No one questioned it. No one had to. One rainy Saturday morning, Ethan took Angela to a quiet corner of the park. Lily was with friends, her laughter ringing from the playground. Ethan held out a small velvet box. Angela froze. "I used to think building legacies meant stock shares and skyscrapers," he said. "But now I know it means building a life with people you love." He opened the box. The ring was simple, timeless. "I'm not proposing because it's expected. I'm asking because I can't imagine a single day without you and Lily in it. I want to be her father officially. I want to be your partner in everything." Angela's voice cracked. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." She looked past him to the playground, where Lily was now waving at them with both hands. Angela's eyes met his. "Yes," she whispered, "to all of it." That afternoon, while the rain fell gently against the windows of their home, Lily drew a new picture. This one had 3 people under a rainbow. In block letters, she wrote, "We found our forever." And they had. Not because life was perfect, not because there wasn't more healing ahead, but because a stranger once said yes to love and never looked back.